All right, all right, all right. Welcome back, ladies and gents. The fifth and final day. What a roller coaster it's been. Can you guys go ahead and just drop a 1 in the chat if you can hear me? 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Beautiful. Amazing. Voila. I will wait for everyone else to start rolling in. Guys, can you just go ahead and drop a W in the chat if you guys are enjoying? If you guys have thought that this event has been spectacular, sensational, everything you could ever wish for and more. W's in the chat. Biggest of W's. WWW. Amazing. Good. Well, I have a very, very, very special surprise for you guys today. We have my good friend Dan Henry in the building. Now, Dan Henry has made well over $30 million, actually fast approaching $40 million with Info. And I've known Dan ever since, well, listen, I've actually known of Dan for 10 years now, for a decade. He's been in this game a long, long, long time. But we actually met for the first time in person in 2018. He was probably the only other smart individual in the same mastermind as I was at, where we both sat, we kind of questioned, we're like, hey, but aren't we meant to make money from this business? Aren't we meant to actually keep profit from this business? And him and I then took that approach and took that line of questioning and ran with it. And we've been, between the both of us, extremely successful with Info, and it's quite frankly totally transformed our lives. So everything that we've accomplished in Info and the roller coaster that we've been through to finally arrive at this destination where, we are the leanest we've ever been in terms of our team size, running more profitably than we've ever been. I mean, Dan has been hitting record back-to-back months with one simple philosophy, which is I'm only willing to work 5 days a month, and the other 25 days, I gotta have Dan time. So, with all that being said, I want you guys to drop a bunch of W's in the chat if you guys are excited to have Dan Henry gracing the stage today. And with that being said, I'm going to hand it over to him. He's going to riff for the next couple hours and absolutely blow your guys' mind. All right, there we go. W's.
Thanks, brother.
My pleasure.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for coming.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Big thanks to Iman for inviting me up here to share with you today. I want to start with a thought experiment. Now, I believe everyone at this event can answer this very simple question. And it is this. Does $1 equal $1? Let me know in the chat. I'm looking at the chat right here in front of me. Does $1 equal $1? Okay, I see yes, 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 yes. For those of you that said no, you've probably seen me speak before. Yes, yes. Okay, so I don't believe that $1 equals $1. And I'm going to prove to you that $1 does not equal $1 in the next 30 seconds. So if I take, let's call it dollar number 1. And by the way, let's pretend that this stage is a mile long. If I walk over to one end of the stage and I take dollar number 1, what dollar is it? Number 1. Type in the chat 1. If I take dollar number 1 and I set it right here, and let's call this dollar number 2, and let's put it over here. Now, I'm standing here. I'm going to take dollar number 2. I'm going to put it right at my feet. Now, you tell me. There's a dollar there. There's a dollar there. This is a mile. Which dollar would you rather have? Which dollar would you rather have? Dollar number 1, which you have to walk a mile to get, or dollar number 2, which is right in front of your feet. You simply bend over and pick it up. Which would you rather have? Dollar number 1 or dollar number 2? Let me know in the chat. I see 2, 2, 2, 2. Okay, here's the thing. If that's the case, then what you've just told me is that you would rather have dollar number 2 than dollar number 1. So if all of you would rather have this, if this is more desirable, then that means it's worth more. And if it's worth more, that means these two things cannot be equal. Now, why is that? Why did you choose dollar number 2? Why is dollar number 2 more valuable? Let me know. Let me know in the chat. Proximity, time, less effort, easier. Exactly. Who said easier? Abdullah. Exactly. Dollar number 2 is easier. Dollar number 2 is easier. So here's the thing. I love this business. And the reason I love this business is because there's so much to learn. For context, our business does 6, sometimes 7 figures per month. And I work, as Iman said, part-time. At least I view it part-time. Now, most of my time is spent traveling, hanging out with my family, my kid. I love traveling. I just got back from Costa Rica, Vegas, Tampa. I was in Saudi Arabia, Pakistan. I love to travel. That's what I love to do. And that's why I view what I do as a lifestyle business. Not because I post pictures of my lifestyle, but because I have a business, finally, that allows me to live my life the style in which I like to live it. So the thing is, when you work for dollar number 1, you have a highly paid job because it's so hard to get this dollar. When you work for dollar number 2, you have a lifestyle business, a business that lets you live your life in style. So my intention today is to show you how to get dollar number 2, not dollar number 1. Because as Iman said, I got started in this game, and what's funny is I got started in this game when ads actually made money. And it was very easy, and this was years ago. It is no longer like this, as I'm sure all of you know. It was easy to actually profit off of ads. Well, that is no longer the case. So I'm going to share with you some decisions I made today that allowed me to transition my business to dollar number 2, the much easier dollar. And here's the thing. Dollar number 1, you only keep this much of it. Dollar number 2, I keep nearly the whole thing. And that's what I want you to keep. My intention today is show you how to do that so that you can have it all. So, one thing I'd like to mention is, by the way, how many of you guys here, let me know in the chat, how many of you guys here have got a lot of tactics over the last 5 days? Iman has showed you a ton of them. You know what tactic I love the most? The one where he showed the CPMs, where you go and you look at your CPMs of your YouTube video to figure out which ones are going to bring you the strongest leads. You guys remember that? Let me know in the chat if you remember that. You guys remember that one? Yes? That was a great tactic. Now here's the thing. Sun Tzu said, strategy without tactics is the slowest route to victory. Tactics without strategy are the noise before defeat. So tactics are great, but when you understand strategy, when you understand the big picture and how to make amazing decisions, you get so much more out of those tactics. So that's what I'm going to share with you today. I will share one tactic with you, though. One very important tactic. I invested $250,000 into learning YouTube. Would you like me to share the results of a $250,000 experiment and the number 1 tactic I learned from that investment at the end of my presentation? Let me know in the chat. Say yes if you would like it. Yes? Yes, please? Okay. Stick around. I will share that with you. So, how many of you have seen me speak before? Let me know in the chat if you've seen me speak before. Yes? Has anybody not seen me speak before? Anybody not seen me? No, no, no? Okay, I haven't seen you speak. We have something in common. I haven't seen you speak before either. I'm just kidding. So, for those of you who haven't seen me speak before, I'm going to share just a little bit about myself. So, you know, I didn't always have a business that I have now. I struggled quite a bit. I delivered pizza for 7 years. I'm from Florida, if that's not enough of a struggle. And, you know, it wasn't always great. But when I look back on it, I can tell you this. I was always one decision, just one decision away from getting rich. And when I finally cracked it, I was always one decision away from getting richer. And then when I cracked that, I was one decision away from getting richer. And here's the funny thing. Iman made a decision that I did not make until much later. He made it sooner. Now, I've done very well. I'm very grateful. But he's done a lot more. He's done north of 100 million. And that's because he made the decision to own his land. I love that analogy he used, owned land versus rented land. How many of you have ever rented? I remember when I was younger, I would rent so many apartments, and I'd move from apartment to apartment to apartment. And every time I moved from one apartment to the next, I had nothing to show for it. I would literally leave the apartment with nothing. And I remember when I bought my first house. I bought my first house, and I lived in it for 3 years. And then when I sold it, I made a bunch of money. And then I bought another house. I lived in it for a while. When I sold it, I bought a bunch of money. I just bought 6 months ago a villa here in Dubai. I live about 10 minutes from the Palm where Iman lives. And the funny thing is, I made 30, this is a unicorn. Don't expect this here in Dubai. This is a unicorn, but I made 38% return on a villa in just 6 months. And it's so funny because in real estate, you make more money when you own than when you rent, because when you rent, you don't make any money. And I love his analogy with ads because that's what I felt like. I felt like I was renting. I was just paying rent to Zuckerberg. And the moment I stopped paying rent, guess where my sales went? Gone. In fact, I took a year off. And I'll tell you more about that later. But I took a year off to work on my marriage. I'd made my money. I just wanted to chill. When I came back, I thought it would be easy. I thought I could just go right back into it. Let me tell you what, it was just as hard for me as it was for anybody. It was just as hard because I was renting. I built my business on ads. Iman made the decision to build his on owned land. He decided to become an owner a lot sooner than I, and that's why. And that is one of the critical things, is being decisive, making decisions now, because opportunities, they don't last forever. I wish I would have made that decision sooner. But let me just tell you, so you know who you're listening to, so I'm thinking some crazy guy talking about money up here that you don't know. When you try to find those decisions, when you try to find what decision that you want to make, how do you know what the right decision is? You don't know. That is why, at least what I do, is I constantly seek out people that have already made the decision, that have already benefited from it, that have already figured it out, and I learn from them. That's why every chance I get my grubby little hands on some knowledge. And every single one of you here, you're here on day 5 because you feel the same way. You want to get your hands on some knowledge that you don't have so that you can make your life a lot better than it was yesterday. So where I got started, I would buy a business, I would improve its marketing, and then I would sell it. And one of the businesses that I did the best with was a little bar and restaurant in a little town called Spring Hill, Florida. And I remember I literally bought this thing. I had no idea about the bar business. I learned Facebook ads, and I watched every episode of Bar Rescue that ever existed. And I was actually able to build that bar and restaurant up and sell it for a $300,000 profit. And then I made a bad decision. I invested that money in something, and I lost it all. I was dead broke. Literally so broke that I was living on ramen noodles because I bet it all. I went all in. Now, around this time, I met a beautiful Turkish girl, and I ended up marrying her. Well, men, and I'll look here in the chat, men, for those of you who are married, you know what it, and maybe you don't or maybe you do, but you know what it's like to struggle financially. But when you have a wife, it's double hard because now you have to support 2 people. And so I was this close to getting a job. Even though I had some successful businesses before, I was this close. My wife says to me, listen, you've already made some money with businesses. You've done this marketing thing. Why don't you sit down on a laptop? I'll go work 3 jobs if I have to. I'll support us temporarily. You figure this thing out. I believe in you. I didn't believe in me, but she believed in me. And guys, as a man, do you know how crappy it is to sit there and play on your laptop while your wife's out working 2-3 jobs supporting you? It feels terrible. And for 6 months, I did not make a dime for 6 months. Do you know what happened on the 7th month? $100,000. My business did 100 grand, like that, out of nowhere. And I'm telling you this because I want you to know no matter where you are financially, whether you're dead broke, whether you're doing okay, whether you're doing great but you want more, it doesn't matter. Your life can completely turn around overnight if you learn some universal principles that'll work for anyone in any business, and these universal principles will allow you to make good decisions, what I call million-dollar decisions, decisions that turn it all around. And the first principle is you have to be willing to be bad to get good. I was willing to suck for 6 months to get good and benefit from it on the 7th month. You have to be willing to be bad to get good. Listen, I understand. I've read the comments. I've seen some of you guys. I know what it's like to start on YouTube and social. Guys, it's easy to sit there and press buttons in the ads dashboard. You get an immediate gratification. You get that immediate dopamine hit. It either converted or it didn't. The click-through rate was good or it wasn't. That's it. That's it. But when you launch on YouTube, you're thinking, at least I was thinking, well, okay, am I going to make money from this? Is this content going to bring me leads? Am I wasting my time? Am I going to make all these videos and nothing happened? Am I really working on my business, or am I just playing around on YouTube? And these thoughts all went through my head. They all went through my head. And I'm sure they're going through your head. But the truth is, you have to be willing to be bad to get good, period. So another principle I want to share with you is on effort. The only way to decrease effort and get that second dollar is to increase leverage. So 5 of those 6 months, by the way, does anybody here know what a webinar is? Let me know in the chat. Does anybody know what a webinar is? You guys know what a webinar is, right? Yeah? Okay, so here's the thing. I didn't know what a webinar was. I didn't know what a webinar was 5 of those 6 months. And then I figured out what a webinar was on the 5th month. I took a month to build a webinar, and that's how I did 100 grand on the 7th month. 48,000 on my first webinar, 52,000 on my second webinar. 2 webinars in that month, in that 7th month, 100 grand. And the only difference between those 6 months where I didn't make money and that 1 month where I did was I figured out one thing. Because look, I did all the same stuff. I posted on social, I did ads, I did all the same stuff. But I found a point of leverage. I found a way to get way more out of that effort, and that was a webinar. Which is funny, it's nearly the same thing as the Flywheel VSL. It's like a webinar on YouTube. So Iman, what he did was he did the same thing, but he took it to the next level because he did it on YouTube. He was smart enough to do it on YouTube. So I'll give you an example of leverage. So you can understand, men, how many of you guys have a wife and you've ever had a wife that's pregnant? Okay? Anybody here have a wife that's been pregnant? It's a fun time, isn't it? Nope, yes, yes? A lot of no's here. Oh, it's coming. Okay, so I want you to imagine for a moment that you have 2 doctors. Now, what do I mean by doctors? So, we'll call this doctor number 1 and doctor number 2. Doctor number 1, doctor number 2. Now, what do you do when your wife's pregnant? You go visit doctors to figure out who you want to deliver the baby. Now, let's say that you go to doctor number 1. He's older. He's got a ton of surgeries. He's very experienced. He's reasonably priced. He's got awards on the wall. And he's got great 5-star reviews. You're like, okay, cool. Now, you go to the second doctor. He's younger, doesn't have as many deliveries, doesn't have as many babies that he's brought into the world. He has okay reviews, like 3.5 stars. And he's a bit overpriced. And he doesn't have as many of these nice certificates, and he doesn't have as much experience. Fellas, what doctor are you going to go with? You going to go with doctor number 1, who has more experience and is reasonably priced, or doctor number 2, who doesn't have as much experience, doesn't have as many reviews, and is overpriced? Doctor number 1 or doctor number 2? Which one? Doctor number 1, of course. Now hold on, let's change one thing. Let's say you get in the car and your wife looks at you. She says, you know what? I don't know what it was about doctor number 2, but man, I really connected with him. I just felt really comfortable with him. Now what doctor are you going with? Let me know in the chat. Now what doctor are you going with? Doctor number 1 or doctor number 2? If you want to stay married, exactly, doctor number 2. But why? This one has better credentials. Gets better price. Everything on paper makes doctor number 1 better. Why? Because doctor number 2, for some reason, made your wife more comfortable. And people buy from people they are comfortable with. Period. When you see an ad in your feed, that's like someone just, imagine a doctor came to your door, knocked on the door and said, hey, do you need any doctor services? You'd be like, whoa. But if you book an appointment to go see a doctor and have a consultation, don't you feel so much more comfortable? You would never have a doctor knock on your door. It would be madness. But see, what we do is we're constantly knocking on people's doors with ads. And yeah, it works, but it doesn't work as well, especially now. What I found with YouTube is when people go and it's like they're going into your office, they're sitting down for a consultation, and they get the one thing that they can't get on ads. They get comfortable, and they get comfortable fast. They've watched your videos. We've literally drilled down the data, and we're data junkies. We are data junkies. For my reels, I have a spreadsheet of every reel we've ever posted, how many views it has, how many comments it has, how many follows we got from it, the follower to view conversion rate. Like, we nerd out on data, and I'll tell you this, the people that spend the most money with us, the people that buy the most from us, that buy more products from us, and that convert the easiest, can you tell me where they came from? Can you guess? Would you like to know where they came from? YouTube. 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 Exactly. Why? Because they're more comfortable, period. They're more comfortable, okay? So, have anybody here seen the movie Catch Me If You Can? Because look, see, you think this doctor had leverage because he had the awards and he had the better price. No, this doctor had leverage because he had the ultimate, he made your wife comfortable. So if you've seen the movie Catch Me If You Can, Frank Abagnale, crazy story. This is a kid who flew over 1 million miles for free on various airlines. Do you know how he did it? So he went down, he found the Pan American Airlines uniform company, the company that makes their uniforms. He goes and finds I guess you'd call it a uniform factory. And he walks up to the counter and he sweet talks the girl at the counter and it says, oh, I'm a pilot. I left my uniform in my hotel room. Can you give me an extra one? So she gives him a uniform. Now, here's the thing. At that time, if you were a pilot, if you went to the airport and you asked any other airline, said, hey, can I catch a ride to Vegas? Can I catch a ride to New York? If you were a pilot for another airline, as just complimentary, they would give you a free ride, just as a perk for being a pilot. You'd ride in the cockpit, you get an empty seat, whatever. He knew this, so he acquired the uniform. He would walk up to various gates and say, hey, can I just catch a ride? And they would just let him on the plane. Why? He could have studied airline regulations and sweet talked them without it. He could have said, oh, I'm a pilot. He could have went and made a fake pilot ID and all this. But that's all very difficult. That's all, to me, that's dollar number one. What he did was he found leverage. He simply had a pilot's uniform. And that gave him the leverage, the authority to just seem like he was a pilot. And they just let him on the plane. And so what I find in business, and I can tell you, every single time I look back, I find the easiest way to make more money is not to work harder, it's not to put in more effort, it's to find the leverage. It's to invest time, money, and energy in the things that make sales easier. If you had to run a mile put it this way. If you had to run a mile and you had a 25-pound backpack on and you had 5-pound ankle weights on and you could only remove one to run that mile faster, what would you get rid of? Would you get rid of the backpack or would you get rid of the ankle weights? What would you get rid of? What would you get rid of? The 25-pound backpack or the 5-pound ankle weights if you wanted to run faster? Could you guys scroll down the chat? Let me see. The bag. But why? Why would you get rid of the bag? Why? Because it had more resistance. You were increasing your leverage to run faster by removing what? By removing resistance. When you build trust, when you build comfort, when you're on YouTube, when people are seeking out your solution, you're creating leverage. You're removing resistance. With ads, there's a ton of resistance. And there's a ton of expense as well. Most people, they work hard at working hard, rather than taking the time to learn how to work easy. To learn how to work easy. So I'll give you an example. If I draw I want you to tell me right now, how many squares are on this board? Let me know in the chat. How many squares are on this board? How many squares? So I see 12, 1, 16, 12, 13, 24. Okay? Now that's interesting because here's the thing. This is 1 square. This is 1 square. Okay? This is 1 square. This is 1 square. This is 1 square. Here's the thing. I don't know how many squares are on this board, but what I do know is, the longer you look at the problem, the more solutions you will find. The longer you look at the problem, the more solutions you will come up with. Money is made by finding many solutions to a problem. A lot of money is made by finding the simplest solution to a problem. And for me, the simplest solution is to remove resistance. So everything, write this down. Grab a pen, write this down. Make a list of every point of resistance in your business. Heck, in your life, in your marriage, in anything. And ask yourself, what's easier? To work harder at this thing or to focus on removing the resistance? To focus on finding the leverage that gets more out of the effort you do put into it. Which brings me to the next principle, which is the fastest way to grow and to create that leverage is to create the conditions for growth. So for instance, this is an analogy I love because I remember thinking of this one day and it really put things in perspective for me. If you have a forest, right? You got your trees, okay? Now, if in this forest you dropped a cigarette butt, you dropped it down. If you dropped it down 10 times, would it start a forest fire every single time? Yes or no? Would it start a forest fire every single time? No, of course not, right? Why? Why would it not do that? Because in order for this to start a forest fire, the forest has to be dry. There has to be some little kindling around here. There has to be wind. There can be no rain. So in order for this forest to catch fire, the conditions have to be ideal. And when the conditions are ideal, the whole forest catches fire. And what I've learned in business is that the conditions are never ideal. What you have to do is create the conditions. You have to create the conditions because if you create the conditions, you can set your business on fire in a good way. And so what I do is I focus less, and I used to focus on working harder, but what I do is I focus less on doing more, and I focus on how can I create the conditions for growth? How can I make this message spread like wildfire? And what's funny is, our YouTube channel, literally we have 70,000 subscribers. We don't get a ton of views. I think some of my videos get 2,000 views. Some of them get, there's a couple that get 100,000 views. There's a couple that get like 20, 10, 5, 7. But they're not crazy. They're not a lot of views. Yet, we have people who buy $25,000, $50,000 who came from YouTube. And most of our buyers that buy our $25,000, $50,000 offers, they come from YouTube. Because what we do is, and this is very key, and if you guys heard Iman talk about this, instead of immediately going to your Flywheel VSL, you create multiple videos with a link to your offer in it, and when you figure out what are the best ones, then you create it. And so we started doing that, and immediately we saw a result. And what's funny is, when I took a year off and I came back, we were struggling with ads. Ads were rough. I went and I put a link. I didn't do anything else. All I did was I put a link to a free lead magnet. I know you guys all know what lead magnets are, on every single video on my YouTube channel. I was like, screw it, I'll see what happens. That month, we got 1,000 leads from my YouTube videos, and I hadn't even posted in like 2 months. Actually, now that I think about it, I think it was more like 3 or 4 months. All I did was put that link. So all those videos that were not optimized, all those videos that were not perfect, all those videos that were made without me even really thinking about it, produced 1,000 leads and a lot of buyers. And that was the moment I was like, okay, something's up here. I've got to stop. Because, man, there's something about ads. There's something about ads. You get that immediate dopamine hit. You launch an ad, you go to lunch, you come back, and you know if it worked or not. And that's hard to say no to. It's so hard because you get an immediate answer. You don't have to wait. And so I understand the temptation to just stick with ads. And I did that for a long time, but I wish I would have made that change. And I'll tell you this, we put a ton of effort into Instagram. I just contacted my COO, Joe, about 2-3 days ago, and I said, get me a report of every single high-ticket buyer above 25 grand for the last 3 months and the channels they came from. And what we found was most of the buyers came from YouTube, and literally, we're putting in massive effort into Instagram. We're putting reels, we're doing chatbots. Look, we're selling books, we're selling tickets to our events, all that. But actual high-ticket buyers, they don't come from, we got like 2. We got 2 versus dozens upon dozens upon dozens upon dozens upon dozens upon dozens from YouTube. So everything Iman's telling you about how YouTube converts better for high ticket and Instagram converts better for low ticket or doesn't really produce as many high ticket sales, we've seen the same exact thing. We've seen the same exact thing, okay? So another principle, which I love, is studying is only illegal in sports, not in business. Anybody a football fan here? Anybody a football fan? So, real football? Oh boy, I don't know. Soccer, okay. Oh, listen, I'm American. I'm from America, so forgive me, but my football's the pigskin. So there's in America, there's a team called the New England Patriots, and they got in a bit of trouble several years back because they were caught filming the opposing teams, which in football is cheating, right? If you go to a team's practice and you film it and you study it, that's cheating. But that's not cheating in business. And so I want to share something with you today. Y'all know Napoleon Hill, right? So Napoleon Hill, he studied 500 of the world's wealth. And by the way, this paper, I'm going to share this with you. If you guys want, I can drop this in the Facebook group. Napoleon Hill studied 500 of the world's wealthiest people, and he uncovered 17 principles of success. His key finding was that none of these successful individuals were born with these traits. Each one deliberately learned and developed them. And you can too. Now, listed on this page are the top 5 of the most important traits. What I love about business is that you can go and you can look at other people that have already done what Tony Robbins said, if you want to be successful, look at somebody who's done what you want to do, model them, and you'll be successful too. Well, Dan Henry says, if you want to be successful fast, just find that person, pay them a lot of money, and have them show you what to do. That's how I like to do it. But isn't it amazing that we can look at what somebody else did, we can study them, and we can get the answers, and it's not cheating. And so this is why this Napoleon Hill study is so important. Would you guys like me to put this in the chat, by the way? I'm going to read these 5 here for you. Would you guys like me to put this in the chat? Yes? Okay, I will do that. All right, so the number 1 is a burning desire. A passionate inner drive separates winners from the crowd. So you may expect obstacles along the way, but if you don't have that burning desire, you're not going to push through. For me, I knew that at some point I had to figure out social. I had to figure out YouTube. I had to figure out how to own my land rather than rent it. Because every month, it got harder and harder and harder with ads. Have you guys experienced that? Have you guys experienced how much harder it's got from, say, a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? Like every year, it gets more difficult and more difficult. Yet, with YouTube, it seems like it gets easier and easier. The next one is specialized knowledge. Don't try to be a jack of all trades. Instead, focus on mastering a specific area. And look, that's why you're here. That's why these seminars and these events exist, so you can deepen your expertise. And every single one of you, and I've heard the chat, I've read the chat, I've heard, I was here listening to the Q&A and VIP. You guys are all experts. You guys all know what you're doing. You guys are amazing. Some of these businesses that I've heard are friggin' fantastic, man. They're fantastic. You guys know your stuff. You have the specialized knowledge. I know you have a burning desire because you're here on day 5, so you got the first 2 for sure. The third one is decisiveness. Success demands the ability to make clear, confident decisions. Rather than waiting to see if details work out, make the choice first and then handle the particulars later. These are not, I didn't come up with these. This is a study from Napoleon Hill on 500 of the world's wealthiest people. These were their traits. The fourth one, goal orientation. Know exactly where you're going and how you plan to get there. Get a map, in other words. Get a map and a process to guide you towards your objective. And finally, masterminding and mentoring. Surround yourself with people who share your drive and vision. They will hold you accountable, give you fresh perspectives, and keep your motivation strong. I will post this in the group for you guys if you want a copy of it. I love that. I love that study. I read it sometimes. It reminds me of the most important traits to have to be successful. And a lot of times you get off the beaten path. You have to remember it to come back on. So there are only 3 things that can stop you. If you have those traits, there are only 3 things that can stop you. 1 is lack of money, 1 is lack of confidence, and 1 is lack of knowledge. Now here's the thing. You only have to solve 1 to automatically solve the other 2. Does anybody know which one it is? Does anyone know what it is? Edvin says, send me the link. I'm already in. That's cool. That's cool, man. Knowledge. Betsy's got it. Knowledge. Why? Why knowledge? Why knowledge? Okay, so look, let's say, I don't know if Iman told this story, but I used to own a business where I would set up at carnivals. I would sell airbrush tattoos. I would sell cotton candy. I would sell Italian ice. That was one of the businesses. I had a concession business at carnivals. So imagine for a moment that I went to a fair or a carnival and I set up an espresso stand, right? So here's my espresso stand. Now, if I did not know how to make espresso and I wanted to set up this espresso stand, does anybody here in the chat know how to make espresso? Does anybody here know? Yes? You guys know? You need to be Italian. Okay, so let me ask you. So who said yes? Rachel said yes. Rachel said yes. Okay, so Rachel, quick question, Rachel. Can we turn Rachel's mic on real quick? I like a little audience participation. And guys, if your mic is on, feel free to interrupt me. I like to have a conversation. I don't like to do a presentation. I like to have a conversation, so feel free to turn on your mic. Yeah, hot seat. Hello, I'm Rachel. Okay, can we turn Rachel's, or anybody that knows how to make espresso, can you turn your mic on? Is it Arthur that can do that? All good? You can't? All right, no worries. Let's do it in the chat. Answer me this. I don't know how to make espresso. If you know how to make espresso, do you think if you spent some time with me, you could teach me how to make espresso? Yes? Yes or no? Yes? Yes? Okay, so what you're telling me is, if one person knows how to do something and another person does not know how to do it, if they sit down with them and spend some time with them, that other person can learn how to do it, right? You can transfer that knowledge. Now, if I knew how to make, if I was sat down and I was taught how to make espresso, and I was showed how to grind the beans and get the air bubbles out and all that stuff, do you think I would have more confidence to make espresso? Do you think so? Yes, you would. Okay, because you cannot build, here's another little secret, you can't build confidence, you can only build competence. When you build confidence, the confidence naturally comes. So if I now know how to make espresso, and I'm confident that I can make espresso, can I now go and sell espresso? Can I now go set up my booth and sell? Yes, I can. And when I sell espresso, what do I make? I make money, okay? So at the end of the day, if you can just focus on learning the thing that you need to know, the confidence will come and the money will come. But you have to be so obsessive, so insanely obsessive about figuring out what you don't know. Period. That is one of my obsessions. I love to ruthlessly, and this is another principle, ruthlessly eliminate the biggest expense. Ruthlessly. So, for instance, here's how you make the decision of what to fix in your business right now. So imagine you had a ship, okay? Here's your ship. And you had some holes in the ship. And these holes were leaking water. So you had some small holes, a medium hole, and then you had a big hole. Which hole would you patch first? Which hole? You got the ship, it's taking on water, here's your holes. Yeah, I love my drawing skills too, terrible. The big hole, exactly, the big hole. You would plug the big hole, but why? Because it's taking on the most water. It's the thing most responsible for sinking your ship. So if you patch this hole, it becomes a lot easier, does it not, to fix these holes? So here's what I want you to do. Grab a pen, grab a piece of paper. Grab it right now. And I want you to write down on the list the biggest holes in your business, starting with the biggest one. So when you write it down, make sure the biggest one, the first one you write is the biggest thing costing you money, the biggest problem, the thing you don't have, the biggest issue in your business. I don't have blank, whatever that is. And then write down the second one. And then write down the third one. And then write down the fourth one. And then write down the fifth one. Go ahead and do that now. Can you put this in the chat? Give me your number one. I want to know everybody's number one. Put it in the chat. What is this one? What is the first one you wrote down? What is the first one you wrote down? Leads. Lead flow. Leads. Knowledge, okay. No eyeballs, so leads. Clients. Sales. Leads. Qualified leads. Clients. Conversion. So basically, everybody's problem is the same. You got a sales problem. You don't have enough leads and sales. You're not getting enough people to buy your stuff. Now, I experienced that same thing. And here's the funny thing. I had a lot of other problems in my business. I had operational problems. How many of you have operational problems? Like you need somebody to help. You need VAs, right? Maybe you're stuck in accounting. You need accounting help. What do all these things cost? They cost what? To solve all these problems, what do you have to pony up to solve these problems? Money. Money. You can hire an accountant. You can hire a VA. I have a chief operating officer. I don't do jack. He does everything. He probably wants to kill me half the time, but he does everything. He handles my whole company. But why? Because when you solve this problem, when you solve the problem of sales, it pays for all the other problems. You see, they say money doesn't make you happy, but I believe that they're right. Money doesn't make you happy, but it sure as hell solves a lot of problems that make you unhappy. The principle here is, guys, and this is simple, but most of us don't do it. I know I didn't do it. Find the biggest hole in your ship. Maybe it's not sales. Maybe it's something else. That's fine. Find the biggest hole in your ship and plug that first. That's it. If you can do that, everything else becomes easier. But if you try to fix these holes, and you still got this gaping water coming out, the ship still sinks. You plug this hole, all of these holes become way easier to plug. I remember one time, I came home and I saw, by the way, anybody here not eat or drink dairy? Does anybody? I don't eat or drink dairy. Does anybody not eat? Does anybody do that as well? No dairy. Okay, no dairy. Yeah. Okay. So I don't either. I do almond milk, oat milk, right? So I come home, I see this big carafe of milk. I knew it was almond milk because we don't do dairy. So I asked my wife. I say, "What is this big thing of almond milk? Like, why does this big carafe of almond milk here?" And she looks at me with this really kind of mean face. I'm like, okay, I don't know what's going on here. But she's like, she walks over to the fridge, throws open the fridge door, points at a carton of store-bought almond milk, grabs it. She says, "Do you know what this is?" Almond milk? She says, "Yeah, it has cancer-causing gums and carcinogens and all this stuff in it, and it costs $6. You're spending $150, sometimes $200 a month on almond milk." I drink a lot of protein shakes and coffee. "And this is going to give you cancer." I was like, "Well, okay, what do you want me to do about it?" So she walks over to the big carafe of almond milk and she says, "Do you know what this is?" I said, "Almond milk?" She says, "Yes, but..." And then she walks over to another part of the counter and she picks up a little black contraption. She says, "Do you know what this is?" I said, "Well, that you got me. I don't know what that is." She says, "This is an almond milk maker. This is an almond milk maker. It costs $50, and with a little handful of almonds, I can make this big carafe of almond milk. Pure almonds and water, nothing else." Okay. And here's the thing. It costs 20 cents to make the equivalent to the $6 jug of almond milk. And I realized at that moment my wife was right. I was spending $150, $200 a month on almond milk and ingesting a bunch of stuff that I shouldn't have for one reason and one reason alone. I simply did not know that you could make homemade almond milk. And isn't it the things in life we don't know that cost us the most pain and suffering? Just like I didn't know about webinars. I didn't know that if I put the same amount of money, not even, the same amount of money into YouTube, into editors, into even time. I mean, you know how much time? When you're spending multiple $100,000 a month on ads, you know how much time you have to take to film different ad creatives? It's a lot of time. If I would have put that time into YouTube and organic and building a brand, a real brand, and I just had a little bit of patience, and I kicked myself for this, I just had a little bit of patience, I could have done what Iman did. I could have made a lot more, with a lot less effort, a lot less complexity, and a lot more profit. But I didn't know. I just didn't know. So, one quick question. How many of you guys don't think you charge enough? Let me ask you that. How many of you guys don't think you charge your worth? Say me in the chat. Okay, whoa. Me. Okay, I got a lot of me's. If I can make this entire, look, if I can help you solve that right now, would you like me to? Because this is one of my biggest things. This right here This is a head issue. I'm going to fix it for you right now, okay? So check this out. The beauty of charging more is that you can invest more to plug those holes. So let me give you an example. If y'all good at math? Anybody good at math here? Anybody good at math? Okay? If you want to make $1 million and you have a $100 product, okay? How many yeses do you need to get for this $100 product to make $1 million? Let me know in the chat. 10,000, exactly. So you need 10,000 yeses. 10,000 yeses to make $1 million. Now, if we double the price and it's $200, now how many yeses do we need to make? Let me know in the chat. 5,000, that's right. You need 5,000 yeses and you make $1 million. Now let's say, I'm gonna get a little more complicated on you. Let's say we make it $500. Now how many yeses do you need to make? How many? For 500 bucks? 2,000. Which means if you charge 1,000, how many do you need? 1,000, right? Now here's what's amazing. What if you charge 10,000? How many yeses do you need to make? How many yeses do you make for 10,000? Let me know in the chat. $10,000, how many yeses to get to $1 million? 100, okay? So the point here is this. What is easier, to get 10,000 yeses or to get 100 yeses? 10,000 or 100? What is easier? 100. So what I learned, a big decision I learned is, look, if I can just figure out how to charge more, I can get to $1 million faster. If I have a problem in my business, I can solve. If I need a new car, I can make 1 or 2 sales and get a new car, especially if I have a $25,000 or $50,000 offer. And so I found that if you just can focus, and again, that's leverage, less yeses. You're leveraging it through pricing, okay? So look, you might say, well, I don't know if I can raise my prices that much. I don't know if I can charge that much. So I want you to imagine that you have 10, I'm only going to draw like 3 or 4, but let's say you have 10 of your ideal clients walking on the beach. Now, you're going to have to participate with me on this. You're going to have to participate, okay? If you have 10 of your ideal clients walking on a beach, and they come across a genie lamp, and out pops a genie. Now, this genie is a capitalist. He's only going to grant one wish to one person, and he's going to make you bid on it. Now, let's say that this wish is to solve the exact problem that your business solves. So whatever your offer is, whatever your service is, your coaching program, your course, whatever it is, the wish is to solve the problem that your product solves. How high would that bid get? Throw me some numbers. How high would that bid get? $100,000, okay? $100,000. 100K. What else? Give me another one. 1 million. Okay, 1 million, all right. 250K, I see. 250K. What else? 3 million. I think I say 50K. All right, so now write that down. Write down on a piece of paper that number, where the bid would get. Now next to it, I want you to write down what you currently charge. So what do you guys currently charge? Type it in the chat. What do you currently charge? 1,000, 1K, 3K, so 1K, 2K, 3K. So here's the thing. If you write down the number that the bid would get at, and next to it you write down what you currently charge, and there's a big gap between those numbers, you are undercharging. You're simply undercharging. Imagine for a moment that I offered you a brand spanking new Ferrari for the price of a Ford Taurus. What's the first question you would ask yourself? Brand new Ferrari for the price of a Ford Taurus. Is he scamming? What's the catch? Is it legit? What's wrong with it? Thank you, Marie. What's wrong with it? Now, how many of you here, because I heard you guys are experts. How many of you here make a big, say me, if you make a big promise to your clients in your business. Say me. Okay, so you make a big promise. Here's the thing. If you make a big promise to your clients with a bitty price tag, what do you think the first thing they think is? What's the first questions that comes to their mind is? Fake. What's wrong with it? Yeah, right. Too cheap. Scammer. Exactly. The principle here is that discounts do not create sales. They create doubt. And when you, and this is the real truth, if you don't know what you're worth, how can you expect your customers to know what you're worth? How can you demand premium pricing? How can you add a premium upsell? How can you do any of this stuff? How can you expect your customers to believe that if you don't believe it? You have to believe it first. How many people did I see on this chat? How many people did I see during the Q&A who said, I get my clients so many results. And look, I'm with you. Listen, I'm on your side. I just went to an event in Las Vegas, and I swear to you, this must have happened at least 20 times. You can ask my wife. Somebody walks up to me, Dan, hey, I took your course. In fact, there's a video of it. It's got almost 300,000 views. It's on my Instagram. You can go watch it. Literally, guy walks up to me, and he says, Dan, I made $1 million with your program. I said, oh yeah? I said, how much did you pay me for? He's like, 10 grand. I had one guy come up to me. This is, all right, tell me if this hits you hard. I had a guy come up to me. He paid me 50 grand for a one-on-one day where I helped him script out a presentation. He took that presentation, and he has a 5K offer. He does $2 million a month with it now, automated, okay? And I said to him, he told me about it at the event. I said to him, hey, do you think you could give me a testimonial? Like, do you think you could, like, you know, I mean, that's, you paid 50 grand and you make $2 million a month. Like, what the hell? Like, give me a testimonial, right? Because I never got one from the guy. And you know what he says to me? He says, well, I'm thinking of selling my company and this and that, and I don't want people to know that I do that well. I don't want the numbers out there, right? How many of you have had a client that you've got an amazing result for, and they either didn't give you a testimonial, didn't tell you, didn't value you, okay? Me, yes, me, I'm all the time, me, for sure, me. Iman just told, what was it? What was the number? You made him like 300,000 profit in a month or something? And you paid 45 grand and they complained about it? Can you imagine that? Can you imagine making this much money and then you make 300 grand profit and you're like, all right, well, I want my $45,000 commission that we agreed on. And they're like, like, can you imagine that? Guys, I'm telling you right now, charge your worth. Because when you charge your worth, all the things you need become easier. The tools you have to pay for. I paid $30,000 for an accountant. I was paying for a cheap accountant, and then I decided to upgrade. I paid $30,000 to an accountant for a tax plan. They saved me 400 grand. Like, you need things. You're in business. You need things. You need tools. You need software. You need mentorship. You need good people to work for you. You need A players. You need a lot of things to excel. You need to charge enough to be able to have those infrastructures, those resources. I promise you, it's as simple as saying a different number. In fact, sometimes it will even increase your conversions. Has anybody here read any of the Robert Cialdini books, like Persuasion, Influence? You guys read that? Anybody read that? Yes? So in the book, there's an amazing story of a jewelry store owner, okay? And in this jewelry store, there was a pair of earrings. Now, what happened was, these earrings sat here on this little podium for months. They didn't sell. So the owner, one day, put a little frowny face. She was very mad. She's looking at these earrings. She's like, I need to get rid of these things. So she leaves a note. And in this note, she said, cut the price of the earrings in half. She leaves it for her manager. Now, the manager gets the note, okay? And on Monday, she goes away for the weekend. Owner goes away for the weekend, comes back on Monday. On Monday, the earrings are gone. She says to the manager, oh, a good thing you cut the price in half. We finally got rid of those earrings. The manager gets a horrified look on her face. Goes, oh my gosh, I made a terrible mistake. She goes, what do you mean? She says, I thought you said to double the price. I thought you said to double it. You see, nobody bought these earrings because they seemed too cheap, but the second they raised the prices, they seemed more expensive because pricing is perception. If you charge more, people will naturally think it's worth more. And for most of you, it is. Just by raising the price. That's pricing psychology. So, another principle that I learned, and this is one of the biggest ones, every day in our business, we do hard things. I always view businesses like going to the gym, right? If you go to the gym only when you feel like it, you're never going to go to the gym. But if you go to the gym anyway, you're going to get in shape pretty quick. Mike Tyson said, if you can train your mind to be stronger than your feelings, you'll be able to do anything. So, I'd like to share with you real quick why people don't buy and why human beings do not take amazing opportunities when they're put in front of them. So, if we were to study the mind, and by the way, do you guys think if you had a car that there was something wrong with the car and you needed to take it to a mechanic, and the mechanic was like, well, I don't know how engines work. Would you trust that mechanic? I know I wouldn't. A mechanic needs to know how an engine works. As an entrepreneur, what is the thing that you use the most to make money? What's the thing? What is the thing? By the way, Jace, thank you. Thank you for saying I'm an incredible speaker. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. The mind. Everybody's right. The mind. The mind. Okay. You need to know how your mind works. So I'm going to share something with you that changed the game for me. It changed the game completely for me when it came to selling, when it came to understanding why people don't buy, and when it came to understanding why I don't take amazing opportunities, why I waited. So, your mind is naturally set up to keep you what? By default, your mind is programmed to keep you, let me know, safe. Thank you, Abdullah. Safe. It's meant to keep you safe. Food, shelter, water. Years of programming in human beings. You put your hand on a hot stove, what happens immediately? You don't have to think about it. Your hand comes off. You get near a ledge. You get nervous. You get hot. You don't even have to think about it. Your mind just gives you the sensories. So your mind is naturally programmed to keep you safe. Now, in order to get reward, what must you first do? If you want to make money in the stock market, what do you have to do with that money? For risk. Thank you, Elijah. Risk. You have to risk. So, can we all agree that in order to get reward, you have to risk? But wait a minute. What is the opposite of safety? What is the opposite of safety? Risk. The opposite of safety is risk. So, if your mind is naturally programmed to keep you safe, but in order to get reward, you have to risk, and risk is the opposite of safety, then that means that by default, your mind is programmed to keep you unsuccessful because all the things that you need to do to become successful, to get a reward, require risk. And when you have risk, what does your body do? It makes you hot. It gets you nervous. It makes your stomach feel weird. This is why, have you ever had somebody on a sales call? Everything made sense to them. They're like, yeah, I get it. Oh, this all makes sense. And then when it came time to buy, they're like, oh, they come up with an excuse or whatever. And you thought you had the sale in the bag. You thought it was in the bag. You're like, this guy's going to buy. It's of course. And then all of a sudden, have you ever had this happen? Yes, do you know why? It's because as human beings, we logically work things out in our head. But then when it comes time to actually risk, our mind goes, whoa, whoa, danger, Will Robinson, danger. And it makes your stomach hot, and it makes your skin feel weird, and it makes you nervous. And then you go, oh, I'm feeling these sensations. I better not do anything. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. 99% of people will feel that feeling and succumb to it. Only 1% of people will go, wait a minute, I'm a human being. Human beings feel nervous when they risk. That's what's supposed to happen. Now look, if it doesn't make logical sense to you, please don't do it. If you have an opportunity in front of you and it does not make logical sense to you, don't invest. Don't take the opportunity. Don't take the time. But if it makes sense to you and you feel that feeling, you got to ask yourself, do you want to be the 99% or do you want to be the 1%? 99% of people, they want a better body, they want a better relationship, they want more money, they want a better house. But they behave like the 99%. You cannot become the 1% if you behave like the 99. And look, here's the deal. It's not your fault. Movies, television, they always paint champions, boxers, Rocky. They paint them as being fearless, but they're not. Champions are not fearless. They simply do it scared. And look, I succumbed to this for years. I delivered pizza for 7 years. I was scared to get out of that job. I had my little safe box. I call it the safe box, right? Here's my safe box. It's safe here. And look, this is at all levels. For me, it was delivering pizza. Did it for 7 years. I was safe there. Maybe for you, it's spending money on ads. Maybe it's for somebody else doing outreach. Whatever it is, you're in your little safety box. But here's the problem. Eventually, this safety box starts to crumble. For me, I had I literally came home 3 times, and there was bags packed at my door. First bag was from a girlfriend. She said, Dan, you're not going anywhere in life. Pack my bags, I'm going. I thought, wow, she's crazy. Got another girlfriend. Bags packed at the door a couple years later. Dan, you're not going anywhere. See you later. Okay, that's weird. Third girlfriend. A couple years later, bags packed. Dan, you're not going anywhere. And I thought to myself, what I thought was my safety box was really my danger box. Because the longer I stayed here, the more dangerous it got. The more my life got worse. And I knew at some point I had to venture out. When I did, I actually got a sales job. And that sales job launched my career, taught me the basics of sales. The next thing you know, I'm trying this, I'm trying that, I'm failing at this, I'm succeeding at that. I'm flipping businesses. Oh, now I learned a webinar, and boom, here I am. You have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Because let me tell you something, speaking of boxes, look, if you think of your life, and I call this the today box. You think of what your life looks like today, and then you think of what your life could look like tomorrow. Think of what it looks like today. Now, paint a picture in your mind, I don't know, 5 years from now. What kind of car do you drive? What kind of house do you live in? What's your relationship like? What kind of clothes do you wear? What do people say about you? What kind of reputation do you have? Paint that picture in your mind. Ideally, what is the ideal scenario? Do you want the tomorrow box or do you want the today box? Let me know in the chat. Do you want to stay in the today box or do you want the tomorrow box? Which one? Tomorrow. If you want something different tomorrow, you have to take action today, and you have to do something different. You can't keep doing the same thing. I'll give you an example. I always had a case of the figure it out before I figure it out. I would constantly miss opportunities because I wanted to figure it out first before I actually put it in real effort, which honestly didn't make any sense. And I remember I delayed my personal brand. I delayed my venture into organic. I was running ads, and things got harder every year, and harder and harder. And it started with, you raise your prices, you get a sales team, then you get better salespeople, then you work on your show rate, and then you work on more ads, and then you do this, and then you do this, and you do this. And it seemed like no matter what I did, in order to maintain that same level of revenue, the next month I had to do a little bit more, and a little bit more, and a little bit more, and a little bit more. And it got so bad that I became so obsessed with my business, I became so busy with my business, that my wife and I ended up getting divorced. And we were divorced for almost 4 years. And during that 4 years, I started partying, drinking a lot. Really, I'll be honest with you, I was just a party animal. And I had what most men would consider a dream lifestyle. But every night, and the problem with this was my son, when we got divorced, my son was six months old. And so every night I would go home after having fun all day. And once that dopamine left, I had an emptiness in my chest. I did not feel fulfilled. And at the end of the day, I just wanted my family. I just wanted my wife and my kid. And so I started asking, hey, let's get back together. Let's get back together. Let's get back together. And my ex-wife at this point would say, Dan, I just looked at your Instagram. You had like 10 girls on your boat. What are you talking about? Get back together. I was like, well, I can stop all that. She's like, no, that's not how this works. And you see, I wanted to have my family back. And many of us, we want to have a nice car. We want to have an amazing business. We want to have more money. We want to have. But we're not human havings. We're human beings. What I missed was that I didn't deserve her. I didn't deserve my family back. And I realized one day, I woke up and I was like, I am not the person that deserves it. And so instead of focusing on what I wanted, and this is a principle, don't focus on what you want. It's not about what you want. It's about what you deserve. Work on becoming the person that deserves it. I quit drinking. I quit hanging out with those friends. I completely turned my life around. And after several months, my wife called me up and she says, you know what? I really see a change in you. And a few months later, we got remarried. Not because I schemed it, not because I convinced her, but because I worked on becoming the person that deserved it. And anything in life that you do, I promise you, you will achieve if you work on becoming the person that deserves it, period. And when I sat down, I took a year off, almost 2, worked on my marriage, came back, and I realized for a moment that all the thoughts I had in my head, what kind of videos will I make? Will this work? Will I waste my time? Am I really working on my business? All of these thoughts I had in my head, I realized that these were 99% thoughts. These were not 1% thoughts, period. And I didn't deserve it. I didn't deserve it because I had too much doubt. I wasn't willing to take the leap. I wasn't willing to risk. And then I said, you know what? I've been through this road before. I started producing YouTube videos. And I'm going to share with you that $250,000 YouTube experiment in a minute. I started doing YouTube videos. It started to work. I started to get sales. The sales were all profit. Things started to turn around. And I thought, wait a second. I need to invest, forget all this ad money that I'm not even getting back. And so I hired a couple editors. I sat down, I started investing in YouTubers. Now, what I did was actually kind of crazy. Once I saw how well it worked, I went all in. I spent $250,000 on YouTube. I would literally find a YouTuber that didn't have a coaching program, that didn't have a course, and I just said, here's 50 grand, answer the phone for 3 months. And I would ask them questions over and over and over again until I figured out one thing after another thing, after another thing, after another thing, after another thing. And eventually, YouTube was producing 6 figures a month in profit for my business. And the funny thing was, everything Iman said was true. I mean, literally, I'm sitting here listening to him, and I'm just like, dude, that's exactly what I went through. It was easier. It was less complex. The customers were better. I mean, it was wild. And I don't know why I didn't do it. I don't know why I didn't do it before. And the funny thing is, I was afraid to spend money. I was afraid to spend money and time. But the funny thing is, if you buy a TV for $20,000, a top-of-the-line TV for $20,000, how much is it worth in 5 years? How much is it worth in 5 years? Like 0, right? But if you buy a $200,000 house, even though it's 10 times the price, how much is that worth in 5 years? A lot more, right? That's because one is spending and one is investing. You see, you spend money on the TV. Spending is when you don't get the money back. Investing is when you put the money in and you get more back. You're investing in the house. You're spending on the TV. So I decided to invest in YouTube instead of spending on ads, because it wasn't like it back in the day. Like, it was freaking hard, man. I felt like I was buying TVs. I was not getting the money back. So, when I spent that $250,000, it worked. And I'll share with you a tactic that I learned, and then I'll share with you something that worked better. So, when I make a video on YouTube, this is the one thing I'm thinking of. All right, write this down. Grab a pen, because this is an actual tactic. Write this down, okay? If I make a video, right? So here's your thumb, and here's your title. And this is how I think about hooks. This is called packaging, right? What is packaging? It's a hook. When you see a YouTube video in your screen, it's a hook. That's what it is. Does anybody know what a hook is? Can anybody tell me what a hook is? Let me know in the chat. What is a hook? Does anybody know a definition of a hook? Okay, attention getter. The first, to catch a fish, pattern interrupt, okay? Here's a definition. Here's what I've found to be the best definition of a hook I've ever learned. That is something that you see or hear that creates multiple burning questions in your mind that you cannot stand to leave unanswered, so you must click to find out. So what I started doing was I would create videos that I knew when somebody watched them, they went, wait a minute, question. One of my most popular videos is, I spent $500,000 on gurus, here's what I learned. Now, I knew when people, and that video did really, really well. It did, I don't know what it's at now, but it was over 100,000 views. And I knew when people saw it, they would say to themselves, what did he get for $500,000? Was it worth it? What was the results? These are questions that you're like, click. So what did I do in the intro? I said, I spent $500,000 in gurus, and in this video, I'm going to share what I learned. I'm going to cover what I got for $500,000, what the results were, and I'm going to share with you some things that you can use right now so that you don't have to invest that money. So what I did was I started creating videos that the packaging created multiple questions, and then all I did in the intro was say, hey, in this video, I'm going to answer this question, I'm going to answer this question, I'm going to answer this question. This was the biggest tactic I learned from investing $250,000 in YouTube consulting. That was it right there. Did you guys catch that? The definition of a hook.
Dan,
yes.
Dan, it's Ali. There's quite a few people who want to come up on stage and interact. Is that okay?
Okay,
Bring
yes.
a few people up.
Absolutely. You can turn anybody's mic on. Absolutely.
Do it.
Yeah. Okay. So I read this comment. That definition of a hook was worth a whole 5 days. I love that. I love that definition of a hook. It really changed the game for me, changed my perspective. But this is what I do in my videos, and it's worked out extremely well. Now, here's the funny thing. A couple months ago, I got an 8-figure license. And, dude, I'm not kidding you. I log in to 8-figure license, and I'm looking at all this stuff. Literally, everything that I learned that I spent $250,000 on was not only there, it was explained better, there was more of it, it was simpler, it was easier to execute. We started executing what we learned in 8-figure license, And that very next month, we had a record month with YouTube. We had more sales from YouTube that next month than we ever had. And we were doing good with YouTube. But we had more sales that next month than we had ever had. And I thought to myself, I could have saved 250 grand. But unfortunately, Iman was not offering it back then, so I was not able to make that decision. I was not able to make the decision to invest in that other than something else. All right, so what was the definition of a hook? The definition of a hook is something that you see or hear that creates multiple burning questions in your mind that you cannot stand to leave unanswered, and so you click. That is the definition, my definition of a hook, okay? Did anybody have a question?
Yeah, if I can ask Dan.
Sure.
Great speech. You said at some point the ads stopped working for you and you switched to YouTube. Is there a stage when you would say, YouTube has stopped working for me and I need to switch away? And at what point kind of that would come in? Because kind of YouTube traffic is your traffic, but YouTube can still kind of block your account, demonetize you, do whatever kind of they want. Is there an element to it at which point you say, hey, I need to kind of own the traffic even more. I need to collect more emails. I need to kind of drive them off YouTube.
That's a great point. So think about it like this, right? If I rent a house, I don't have any equity. If I buy a house, I have equity. But if I don't pay my property taxes, the government can still take my house. So yeah, you can have a channel on YouTube, and if you do something weird, they can still take it. Sure, yes. But would you agree that if you own a house, you still have far more control over it than if you rent a house? And as long as you keep your nose clean, you pay your property taxes, you're going to be fine. Would you agree to that?
Sure, yeah. It's just I've experienced random bans in random platforms for random reasons, and then of course they unban you. But it's that fear, like 7 days you're blocked for no reason, or somebody complained, or copyright, or something.
So, okay, I'll be honest with you. This is probably a better question for Iman's team. I have not experienced that. I have not experienced any YouTube, I've experienced Facebook ad bans, but I have not experienced any YouTube bans, anything like that. I mean, can you tell me what industry it's in?
Yeah, it's like standard e-com industry, but it's mostly maybe a competitor gives a copyright claim. Sometimes they own it. It's like a targeted attack sometimes.
Okay. That one, I've not had that happen, and I would never answer a question that I would not have a good answer to. So for that particular question, I would defer to Iman's team because I personally have not had that happen. I've not had that happen. Okay. I'm gonna take a couple questions in a second. Let me just share one more thing for you guys, and then I'll be happy to take questions. So I will tell you before I get to questions and leave you here for the day, the biggest. Let's do this. Let's get some audience participation. Okay. So the team here. By the way, I had cigars with Iman. We did a Russian banya, which was I felt like that was some sort of rite of passage or something. I don't know if any of you guys have ever done Russian banya, but dude, like that is intense. And look, I honestly, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'll be fully honest. I saw guys like Iman literally crushing it on YouTube, and I was jealous. I was like, how in the heck am I working my ass off to make this money? And these guys are out here printing cash with a friggin' YouTube channel. But I'll tell you this, after hanging out with them, these guys have their stuff together. They are a well-oiled machine. They study this stuff to a degree. Like, literally it makes me want to, like, when I hung out with them and logged into 8-Figure License, I was like, dude, these guys nerd, like I thought I was a nerd. These guys nerd out on this stuff to a level that I did not know was possible, okay? And I believe that is why we had a record month using that stuff, okay? So here's the thing. Before I take questions, I want to say if you missed out on the offer, if you missed out on the offer to apply for 8-Figure License, I really want to challenge everyone here. If you don't feel that this could transform your business, whatever. But if you think in your heart of hearts that finally creating your personal brand, finally owning your land, finally taking that leap and making a change and owning rather than renting is the thing that's going to take you to the next level. For less than the cost of a nice vacation, for less than the cost of that big top-of-the-line laser TV I talked about, for less than a cost of a cheap car, you can get an 8-figure license. And if you believe that you're investing money rather than spending it, then I challenge you to take him up on his offer. At least apply. Because when you invest with Iman, you're not investing in Iman, you're investing in yourself through Iman, okay? So we'll put a link up here. It's 8figurelicense.com/apply. I want to give one piece of news here. So many of you, you knew about the offer, okay? But there's a bonus of a mastermind in London on, I forget the date. 11 to 13, okay. What they did not tell you was there's actually 2 bonuses, and you get to choose which one you want. So, bonus number 1 is that mastermind, okay? Now, bonus number 2 is what we call the triple pack. You get to choose which bonus you want when you join 8-figure license. Now, what is the triple pack? So the triple pack, instead of the mastermind, if you don't want to go to the mastermind, if you can't make the mastermind, you're going to get, number 1, a one-on-one call with Iman Gadzhi. Number 2, you're going to get a one-on-one call with your selection from his executive team. And number 3, I'm going to host a half-day event. And my thing is sales presentations, webinars. That's how I made virtually all of my almost $35 million. I will host a half-day. For anybody that joins, you can come on. You can tell me about your webinar, show me your slides, tell me what you got going on, and I'll give you my opinion on it. I'll give you a second set of eyes. So you'll get all 3 of those calls as a bonus. So when you apply, all you have to do is talk to your rep and just say, hey, I want bonus 1 or I want bonus 2. Now, if you're anything like me, I'll be honest with you, I'm not much of a mastermind guy. I've been to masterminds, and I get it. Networking's great, but me, man, the best investment, I invested $50,000 with multiple speaking coaches. I invested $50,000 with multiple I have multiple times got one-on-one mentoring. Michael Haig, I flew him out to my house and paid him a lot of money just to teach me storytelling. Michael Haig is a Hollywood screenwriting consultant. He works with Julia Roberts and Will Smith. I have always learned the quickest, the fastest, one-on-one. So for me, I like the triple pack, all right? I would choose the triple pack over the mastermind. That's just me. But here's the beautiful part. You get the choice. So when you go to 8figurelicense.com/apply, just tell them, hey, I want bonus 1, which is the mastermind, or I want bonus number 2, which is the triple pack. Now, before I get to questions, I'd like some audience participation, okay? So turn your mics on. I want some participation in this one. This right here, for me, is one of the biggest lessons, and when I saw this, it's one of the biggest lessons I have ever learned in my entire life that made me successful. So, who here hires people? Just say me. Just call it out with your microphone if you hire people.
Yeah, me.
Yep, me? Okay, you hire people. Okay.
Yeah, for sure we do.
Perfect. Ooh, can we turn my mic down just a wee bit so I don't burst my eardrum? Okay. For those of you that hire people, I want you to name me one characteristic that you look for, one quality that you look for in a great employee. Give me one. Just call it out.
Loyalty.
Loyalty. Okay, I'm going to write that on the board. Okay, give me another one.
Willingness to do the extra mile.
We had 2 people talking at the same time. Give me one more. Ladies first.
I said versatility.
Versatility. Oh, I like that. Okay, so give me another quality you look for in an amazing employee. Anybody? We got loyalty. We got versatility. What else we got? What do you guys look for? Okay, coach.
I think
Oh,
Julian said go the extra mile. That's also really important.
the
Yeah, I'm
extra-
sorry, I
okay.
forgot that I
Oh,
was unmuted again. I'm
okay,
muted.
so we'll
Actually,
do.
for me, it's the extra mile because I mean, we all look for young talent, unshaped or like, talent without any boundaries or screens in front of them,
Yeah.
and
So effort.
them we can shape
Who's
if
that?
they are willing to push.
Is it Julian? Julian, was that talking Julian? Yes? Yeah, so Julian, so basically, would you say effort? You look
Let's put it effort, yeah.
Yeah,
Quick
effort.
one word.
Okay, cool.
Effort.
What else? What else you guys look for?
I don't know it. Here's a word, but I think there's a better way to say it. It's like somebody who anticipates. There's got to be a simpler way to say it, but
Oh, forward thinking.
kind of like ahead.
Forward thinker. Yeah, okay. I saw integrity. Okay. Forward thinker. Okay, let me look at the chat as well. Don't be lame. Resourceful, action taker, honesty. Okay, so we have honesty, action taker. We had passion. Okay. We had leadership. Leader. Okay. Leader. Attitude. Leader. Attitude. Coachable. Fair. Do I already put coachable? Nope. Coachable. Fair. Okay. What else we got? We'll do a couple more. Ambition. I like that. Ambition. Team player. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. You guys are going to call this out for me, each one. All right? This is very important, each one. All right? So, loyalty. Is that an attitude or a skill? Attitude or a skill? Loyalty. Attitude. Okay? So I'm going to put A. A for attitude, S for skill. Attitude. Versatility. Is that an attitude or a skill?
To me, it's an attitude.
Attitude. I agree. Attitude. Oh, I have that twice. Okay. Effort. Somebody who puts in effort. Is that an attitude or a skill? Attitude. Integrity. Is that an attitude or a skill?
Attitude.
Okay. Forward thinker. Is that an attitude or a skill?
Yeah, I think we're getting the point.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm going to call that a skill. Okay? Honesty, that's an attitude. Action taker, that's an attitude. Passion, that's an attitude. Leadership, that's a skill. That is a skill. Coachable, that's an attitude. Fair, attitude. Ambition, attitude. Team player, definitely attitude. So here's the thing. If an employee is loyal, versatile, has great attitude, effort, integrity, all of these qualities, would they make a great employee? Yes, they would. You just said it, right? Now here's the kicker. Would they make a great employer? Would all these qualities, if you had an employer, if you had a boss that had all these qualities, would they be an amazing boss? Yes? What about a father? What if a father was loyal, versatile, had a great attitude, effort, integrity, forward thinker, honest, action taker, passionate, leader? If a father had all these, would it make a great father? Yes. What about a mother? Yes. What about a president? Yes. What about a CEO? I could sit here all day long and name all these various things. The point is, it sounds like you're telling me that if you have these qualities, you will be successful at anything in life that you do. Now, what are most of these qualities? Are they attitude or skills? 95% of these are attitudes. There's only a couple skills here. And so what I've discovered is that if you have the right attitude, you only need a little bit of skill to make it. But you got to bring the attitude. The attitude is 90%. It's the thing that will separate you from the 99%. It's the thing that makes you the 1%, is your attitude. Now, I will tell you, I promise you, if you bring the right attitude to YouTube, you'll be successful because you can learn that skill. If you bring the right attitude to Iman and his team, and if you think honestly that they can teach you this skill, and you can look yourself in the mirror and you can be honest with yourself and you can tell yourself, yes, I can bring that attitude. I can bring these qualities, and you believe that if you bring these qualities, all Iman and his team have to do is teach you this little bit of skill, then I'd like you to take that leap and apply. And if not, that's cool too. Because I'm gonna tell you this, whether you apply or not gonna change his life. He's gonna drive the same car, same house, he's gonna still live in Dubai, all that. But it could change yours. I'm happy to take questions. Other than that, that's my time.
Yeah, I have a quick question.
Yes.
So, right now, I know you mentioned like leverage, right? So finding out where your biggest resistance
Yes.
are. So, I've found that my biggest resistance is getting enough like qualified leads through the door. And right now, my current strategy is mainly like outbound and sometimes ads. And this has shown that it could take us to 30, sometimes 50,000 a month, but it's extremely unsustainable. So
Yeah.
should I take a similar route to you where I take 6 months to build up and shift my entire strategy to YouTube and organic, or should I still focus on outbound and building my YouTube at the same time? Because my thought process is that there's higher leverage in going all in with what works and has the highest leverage than to do something else. So what would be your suggestion on that?
Well, it took me 6 months when I first got started, and then I learned webinars. It didn't take me 6 months to make money from YouTube. It only took a few videos to start bringing in the leads. And what's interesting about that is, and I believe Iman talked about this, if you, I don't know if he covered this or not, because we talked about this privately, but if you look at what you've already done, because you've done ads, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Instagram.
So if you look at an ad, right? What is an ad? So an ad is generally some sort of image or video, right? And then it's like a title or what they call a headline, right? I mean, is that not
Yep.
an ad? Okay. So I don't think you necessarily need to start from scratch on YouTube, because if you just look at your highest performing ads, and this was actually a big needle mover for me, was if you look at your highest converting ads and you just make YouTube videos based off those ads, you're already like 80% of the way there, maybe more. Because those, what's the difference between an ad and a YouTube video? What is an ad? It's an image and a title that gets you hooked, and then you click. And in one instance, you're going to a landing page. In the other instance, you're going to a YouTube video. And in one instance, you either do the thing on the YouTube video, and the other, you do the thing on the landing page. So I would start looking at your most profitable, highest converting ads and base your first YouTube videos off those. So you're basically you can already do them both at the same time. You can actually use the same amount of effort but duplicate the result. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And just a very quick follow-up questions. Like right now, I only have like 18 months to build my organic and my YouTube up. Do you think that's something that's possible to get to multi-six figures a month profit?
Well, here's what I'll tell you. Do I know that will happen? I have no idea. But here's what I can tell you. Do you have these qualities?
Some of them, yeah.
Okay. Do you have most of them?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you willing to learn the skill of YouTube?
Absolutely.
Then yes, I think you can absolutely succeed.
All right. Thank
Okay?
you. Thank you very
Yes,
much.
Absolutely. And to be clear, you mentioned something a second ago. I'm trying to remember what it was. Quality of leads, right? So the other day, I flew into America, because you're not allowed to do this in Dubai. Flew into America, and I was jet lagged, obviously. So it was like 8 a.m., and I got a knock on the door at 8 a.m. Can you guess who it was? Can anybody guess? Is there still spots for the mastermind? That would be a question for, I believe there is, right? Is there still spots? Yes? Okay, yes, there is, yes. No, it wasn't the IRS. No, it was Jehovah's Witnesses. They were knocking on my door at 8 a.m. Now listen, I'm gonna tell you this right now. If in what case would you rather, if you were trying to preach whatever it is you were trying to preach, in what situation do you think you would have a higher chance of getting the point across to the person you were trying to preach to? When someone walks into your church, sits down and says, please tell me about God, or when somebody knocks on your door at 8 a.m. and wakes you up?
And someone walks into the church.
Right, exactly. So to me, what I found, especially when you said outreach, like, dude, I'm gonna tell you this, I hate outreach. I did that for 5 minutes and I was like, no. I was like, no,
Yeah.
I was like, I'm knocking on someone's door at 8 a.m. and whether I'm right or not doesn't matter because they're angry, okay? And for me, YouTube, it was like people coming into my church, okay? So it's painful and it's uncomfortable to do something different. It always is. And 99% of people won't do the different thing. Only 1% of people do. And the truth is, that's why the 1% gets what they get. That's why they are the 1%, because they've done the hard things to be deserving of it. And so look, bro, what do you sell?
Coaching for like fitness and dating coaches.
Okay, do you get good results?
Yeah, we've scaled few coaches past like 50,000 a month
Oh,
profit
wow.
from zero.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay, so then, am I correct in assuming you get better results than most of your competitors?
Some of them, yeah.
But there's plenty out there that you get better results in,
Yeah.
right? Now, is there anybody that you get better results in, but they make more money than you?
Oh, so many, so many out there.
Can I ask you a personal question? Does that not piss you off?
Yeah, it keeps me up at night. Like I can't
Yeah.
sleep because of that shit.
No, I get it, bro. I cannot tell you the amount of times, especially when I got started, that I saw somebody who I was like, this person doesn't have any idea what they're doing, yet they're making way more money than me. It pissed me off. And you know what was crazy about it? They either had, none of them were running ads. They either had a podcast, a YouTube channel, they had some sort of personal brand that gave them leverage, that gave them an unfair advantage. And it pissed me off because I really thought I was better. I know I was better, but they were making more money. And so
Yeah.
I feel you, bro. I feel you. I think you can crush it. I absolutely think you can. Look, if you told me I don't get results, I don't know what I'm doing, I might give you different advice. But the fact that you sit there and told me that you get results, you do better than a lot of your competitors, and believe me, I know that space, you do better than most competitors, I think you owe it to yourself to do the hard thing that will pay off big. I think you owe it to yourself to get in a situation where you never have to be pissed off again that somebody else who knows far less than you is making more money than you. Because that's a shitty feeling. And I don't think you need to
Right.
feel that. I used to feel that,
Right.
and now I don't, and I don't think you should either. So that's my advice.
All right, I appreciate it a lot. Thank you
No
very
problem,
much.
bro. Yeah, who's next?
What's up, Dan?
What's up? How you doing?
Dude, crushing the presentation, man.
Oh, thank
Freaking
you.
loving it. So, yeah, my quick question is, if you were starting with no brand somewhere else, now I do have a little bit of a brand, but if you were starting with pretty much nothing and getting started on YouTube, right, and you understood the packaging, okay, piqued the questions in their mind, automatic. So what else would you kind of factor into kind of just starting to post? Would you do a cadence? Would you try to just get a whole like binge bank up front? Like, what would you do? How would you approach that?
This is funny that you asked this question. So I actually did this. I recently started a brand new YouTube, because here's what happened. I've always wanted to start a different brand. I love marketing. I love this stuff, right? But I have other passions. I mean, does anybody feel that? Like you love what you do, but you have other passions. Well, when I got into 8-figure license, I couldn't help myself but think like, damn it, I wish I would have known this stuff when I started. And so I started a new YouTube channel in a completely different space. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I don't need any of you Bogarting my Kool-Aid, but it's in a completely different space. It has nothing to do with business. It has nothing to do with marketing. First video I launched, I don't know what it's at now, but yet earlier today I checked it. It was at 175,000 views, and I posted it less than a week ago, and I got 10,000 subscribers. And so what I told you about I swear to God, what I told you, here's two things that I did. Number one, I told, I'm gonna be transparent with you. The first one is exactly what I told you. I created a video that created burning questions in the mind, and then I promised to answer those questions in the intro. The second thing I did, and I can't take credit for this because my team did it, was I gave them access to the thumbnail training in 8-Figure License. I said, just do this, right? Well, I don't know what it is. I don't got time. Just do it, right? And they did it, and the thumbnail crushed. And I believe those two things combined. So what I would say is, I would say listen to those that are successful. You've heard Iman say it. You've heard Mr. Beast say it. I've heard every successful YouTuber say it. It's 90% packaging. 90% packaging. Iman, didn't you say that you guys do like how many different versions of a packaging before you do a video? How many? 30? Okay, guys. All right, hold on. I know that sounds like a lot, but bro, the guy's picked me up in a Phantom. Okay, he's got cars coming out his ass. Like, I swear to God, like he's got Range Rovers, he's got Phantoms. It's like Oprah's. Like, hey, you want a Rolls Royce? Hey, you get a Rolls Royce. Hey, here you go, here you go, here you go. Oh, you want a big house in Dubai? Look, I mean, the dude's crushing it. I'd make 30 thumbnails too if it got me that type of results. So I know it sounds like a lot, but probably works. So we didn't make 30. I think we made like 12, and we picked the best one, and it smashed. So was that helpful?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
Awesome.
for sure.
Awesome. Amazing. I didn't do 30. I did 12. So I'll get there. That's why I don't have a Phantom. I'm gonna get one though. I was actually talking to your driver. I was like, I need to convince him to sell me this one when he's done with it. Give me a good deal. Okay. What else we got? By the way, let me know if you guys happen to have applied or apply. Drop me a comment that lets me know that you applied. Okay? Drop me a comment in the chat. Okay, who's next?
I could go. Thank you for having me on. Thank you for having all of us on.
Yes.
I wrote down competition actually, because for sure, don't get me wrong, we need to focus on ourselves, but still in the niche we operate, there are competitors. To what extent would you say evaluate their strengths, evaluate their weakness to really get to know where you should position yourself in this niche?
Okay, so let me just repeat your question back. You're saying where do you want to position yourself in the niche? Is that what you're saying? Like what?
Somehow, yes.
Like
So
how do you
for sure,
how
we
do
know
you
our values,
differentiate?
we know our offer. So from there, I can go, I can shoot. Still, there are competitors with the same similar offer in some way. To what extent do we check them, evaluate strengths and weaknesses, and from there on, find our own way?
Oh.
Do we just totally don't check anyhow and just do our thing because at the end that's what we're most successful with? Or do we evaluate a little bit? What's your
Here's my perspective
recommendation?
on
How
that.
would you approach?
You want to know the secret to making millions of dollars? Sell something someone else sells and call it something different. Seriously, sell what people are buying and call it something different. I'll give you an example, right?
Reframing, yeah.
Yes, but I'll give you an example. My thing is I sell people on how to do sales presentations, right? Because that's what I love. I just love sales presentations. Now, how many of you have heard of a challenge, a summit? Like you've heard of a challenge, you've heard of a summit, you've heard of a virtual event, you've heard these terms, right? Yes?
Yeah, sure thing.
Yeah,
They're all around.
Yeah, you've heard
And
of all
everybody's
around.
doing them, but at the end, if you do them correct, your
Yeah.
way, you're going to be successful if you're confident, yeah?
Right, but you've heard it called this, right? So essentially, I sell the same thing. But have you ever heard the term paid presentation? No? Is this the first time you've heard it?
For me personally, yes.
Yeah, okay. Exactly. So we did 1.5 million off of our offer. And what did I do? I didn't call it a virtual event. I didn't call it a paid webinar. I didn't call it any of that. I called it a paid presentation. Iman, does it? I mean, what was the term you used? Arbitrage economy. Contractor arbitrage. Dude, like, can I be honest with y'all? There are 3 markets: health, wealth, and relationships. That's it. You can only sell 3 things. You either sell people on how to make or save money, you sell people on how to look good, or you sell people on how to look good or feel better, or you sell people on how to have better relationships with others or themselves. That's it. Every offer that you can think of in some way goes to one of those 3 things. What I'm trying to say is we all sell the same stuff. Okay? Period. We all sell the same stuff. What you have to do is figure out how to make it sound different. That's it. If you can make it sound different, if you can make it sound new, unique, and fresh, you will beat your competitors. So when you study them, I don't necessarily study my competitors' weaknesses. I just look at what they're doing, and I just say, if I can just make it sound better, sound different, sound newer, sound fresher, I win. If I can make it more entertaining, and if I can make it more personalized, if I can make it more clear, fresh, I win. So honestly, for me, that's all I've ever focused on is, and I usually say it like this. If you're walking down the street and you see 2 lemonade stands, and one lemonade stand says freshly squeezed lemonade, and the other lemonade stand says yellow water with sugar, which one do you buy? You buy the freshly squeezed lemonade. But it's the same lemonade. Literally, they got it from the same supplier. What's the difference? This lemonade stand simply chose better words to describe their product. And I'm a firm believer that words are everything, right? People don't buy good products, they buy products that sound good. So if you have a good product and you don't know how to make it sound as good as it truly is, you're doing yourself and your customers a massive disservice. So from my perspective, I would simply focus on making it sound newer, fresher, and better, rather than just strengths and weaknesses. And that's what you're really looking. Their weakness is always going to be they don't describe it as well as you could describe it. They don't call it what you could call it. So that's how I would differentiate myself in the market. Does that make sense?
Gotcha. Yeah, much appreciated. At the end, it comes down to execution and do it your way, and reframing, and maybe thinking about it from the marketing psychology side. How can you reframe to match the customers' problems and needs?
A simple way to put it is just make it sound new and fresh, and do a good job when they buy it. Because if you can make it sound new and fresh, they're going to buy it. So make sure it's good. That's my advice. Absolutely, yes. Paula,
Gotcha.
Can we bring up Paula real quick?
So Dan, Paula, Fidel, and Julian have just put their deposits down as well. So
Congratulations. Can let me talk to Paula for a second. Let me talk to Paula. Where are you at?
I'm in Toronto, Canada.
Toronto, Canada. Awesome. So first of all, congratulations. I just want to ask, what drove you to apply for 8-figure license? What was the big reason?
Yeah, I bought yesterday actually, and I just love learning from you guys. So I joined today to see what else I can get.
Awesome.
But no, it's just like a no-brainer for me. I'm definitely all about setting things up properly from the beginning. So I already have a successful business, but my health coaching business is fairly new, and I'm just a go big or go home kind of person. So
You're a 1%er.
What's that?
You're a 1%er. That's what a 1%er is. Period.
This is what we do.
This is what
we do.
Yeah.
Honestly, all this mental attitude, having the right mindset, that's all really important, obviously. But yesterday's presentation, that's more where my forte is. I get things done. I want operations seamless. I want hiring seamless. I want training seamless. These are the things that drive you forward.
Well, you know what it sounds like? It sounds like it made sense to you, and you moved forward because you knew it was the right thing. That's what a 1%er does. And look, I've gone big and I've gone home before. Doesn't stop me from going big again, because it only takes one win to make up for all the losses. So congratulations.
We also. So always worth it. I've actually never ever thought that it wasn't worth it, even if I did have to go home without not much to show for it. The lessons learned. But yeah, that's not been my experience. So I'm all in.
Early on, when I made that investment, after I sold that bar and restaurant, it wasn't like in a mentorship. It was like an angel investment. It didn't work out, and but I did not stop that from. You know what's funny is I started investing in myself rather than investing in others, and that's when it's funny enough, that's when I started getting the biggest returns, when I invested in myself rather than others. It's crazy how it works like that. So congratulations.
No, it takes time to learn this in life, that mentors are needed.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, it's a hard lesson sometimes, but it's a beautiful thing on the other end. So congratulations. Thank you so much,
thanks.
Paula. I look forward to seeing you. as well. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, me too.
So who is the next person?
I should be the next one. If I can go quickly, guys, I don't know if
Andre, go on, Andre.
Thanks,
go on,
man.
Andre.
Thanks, man. So then, first of all, great fucking presentation. I wrote in a chat before that, like, literally, this presentation that you gave is worth more than 5 digits alone. So I don't know how you guys put this together, but it's, I mean, crazy value, especially from a guy like me, 21, like trying to learn stuff. It's really inspiring. So getting to my question, it's something that relates to me, but I think it relates to many people, and we have not touched upon this topic yet. It relates to AI and like automation, like leveraging, this new technological wave to detach you from business operations. So, okay, YouTube is a massive leverage, as we've, clarified for sales. In my case specifically, but you could extend the topic to like more broadly. I currently run an agency, and I do like, normal service, run ads, like the normal stuff. And I really want to detach me from this business model and try to sell automations to my niche. In my case, it's dentists through Go High Level, but I would like to go more advanced with the, AI stuff. I would like to know, how would you structure the path to like getting away from a business that requires active work from me, and like getting to a point where I can make still high ticket money, because right now I'm charging 2K per month.
So wait,
and I
let
don't
me
want
just
to,
ask, is your question how to remove yourself from the business?
Essentially, yeah.
Okay, so I know Iman has his thoughts on this. For me, it's like, look, at the end of the day, this is how I think about it, right? I think about it like this. There's a book, Who Not How. And basically, to sum it up, is most people, 99%ers, they worry about how to do things, whereas the 1%, they worry about who can do it for them. That's what they worry about. So what I would do is I would make a list of your biggest, most money-making skills. Like, what are the things that you know how to do that makes the most money, okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then what I would do is I would say, okay, if this one makes way more money than this one, let me go ahead and delegate, or you mentioned AI, train an AI to think, if that's applicable to this, but basically delegate this until it's off your plate. And then move up to the next one. Delegate that until it's off your plate. You've trained someone, they're off. And just work your way up until you get to the top. Now, for me, if this is the most valuable skill in your business, I would do that. I wouldn't remove myself from that. That's the big money maker. But if you get rid of all of these and you delegate them, you document, you do proper SEO. Guys, that's all it is. It's proper documentation. It's mentoring. I have a marketing manager now that I took a year to mentor. I don't even do my marketing anymore. You imagine that? I love marketing. I don't do it anymore because I took that time. What do? I do sales presentations. I do content. That's it in my business. I come up with the YouTube videos and any sales presentations, because that's what makes the most money for me. So that's what I do. That's what I focus on. Everything else, emails, like all that stuff, I delegate it out. So that's what I do. I'd systematically work your way up. But if I were you, whatever that top one is, I'd keep it.
Okay, and maybe teach others using YouTube how you are and how you became so good at that number one skill, maybe.
Say it again?
And as you're doing for presentations, maybe leverage YouTube, not like to teach that skill to others. Like if you're literally the best at that particular skill, use that to teach others how you do it, and maybe I don't know, like offer
Well, that's what
coaching
I-
and mentorship and.
Well, that's what I do that. I focus on making content that gets me buyers, which is what I think all of you should be. Isn't that the whole reason why you guys are here? I mean, that's what I think all of you should do. But yeah, for you, for anybody, just take the stuff that's making you the least amount of money that's on your plate and get it off your plate so that you can focus more on the thing that makes money. I know some of this stuff I've shared today may sound a little bit simple, but it may sound simple, but it's not simple to execute. If it was, you guys would be doing it, you know? And I know for me, I would say, oh, it sounds simple, but I wasn't doing it. What's hard is the execution. So you got to commit. You got to say to yourself, you know what? I'm going to take a day this week, and I'm going to take one thing, and I'm going to delegate it out. And then the next week, I'm going to take another thing. I'm going to spend the whole day. I'm going to document it. I'm going to delegate it out, and just chip away at it. And that's how. But I would not get rid of the thing that makes you the most money.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, no worries. Who was the next person after Paula?
It'd be me. Okay, hear me?
Yes, it's.
Go for
Yeah.
it, Sam.
Alright,
Yes,
so
awesome,
pretty
brother.
much, I'm in. First and foremost, I love your content and love what you do.
Thank you, brother.
But I'm in a very particular scenario with my agency where I sell social media services on platforms like X, YouTube, and even like TikTok. So like whether it's getting usernames or getting people verified on those platforms, I can't advertise that because I can get a C&D, for example, right?
Okay,
So like if I try
okay,
to do
so
it
tell
on
me-
X or YouTube,
So-
I can't afford the outbound or outreach. Besides
give
that,
me
so I
a
don't know
one-
a solve for that.
So I understand
So I
what you
can't
sell.
scale.
So I understand what you sell. Give me a one-sentence pitch. Tell me, I sell you this. What? I will do this for you. What is that thing?
So that thing is, so if you ever have in a scenario where there's an issue with your account, whether you're trying to brand yourself on online presence, getting a username, or you have your ad accounts banned, or your
So you
TikTok
help
account
get
banned,
get
I
social
help
media
recover that.
accounts back or protect those accounts, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And what is your question?
My question is there a way to advertise that? Because without worrying
Of course
about
there is.
the factor of being banned on said platforms.
When you say
Like,
advertising, you mean in
for
an
in-
ad or you mean in a YouTube video?
hmm So do you on let's say like I advertise it on X, for example, right?
Uh-huh.
And my X account got banned, right? So I also sell YouTube services as well, including YouTube verification, right? So if I advertise my services on YouTube, I'll possibly also get banned on YouTube, right? So I'm in a scenario where it's hard for me to advertise and everything's just all inbound word of mouth.
Okay. So in your content, are you saying that you will get their accounts back and all this stuff? Are you saying that? Or would
No.
would you say that? If when you say advertise?
Was before, yes.
Okay, so that would get you banned, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I wouldn't do that. What I would do is I would create content that people who would want that would be interested in, and then I would take them from that content to a VSL, like the Flywheel VSL, and then to the sale.
Yeah.
So for instance, right? Hey, do you make money from your socials? Is your business based on your ability to own, maintain, and grow your social media account? Are you worried that you might do something wrong and that you could lose that account? Come to this training and I'll show you how to future-proof your social media accounts. I'll show you how to make sure that you're on the up and up. Basically a compliance training, right? And then when they get on there, you say, listen, if this has happened to you, here's the path, I always say this, here's the path to success, right? Here's how to go from A to B and get it back, whatever, da-da-da-da-da. Oh, don't want to do it yourself? Okay, then we have a done-for-you service, right? We'll do it for you. But you don't say that in your content, you say that here. Because if you say it in your if you take them from your content to a VSL, it's my understanding you can say whatever you want in the VSL, correct? Because it's not.
Yeah, that's correct.
So that's what I would do. I would feed, I would create content for people, or that people who would want that service or have that problem would have, and then I would send them to that VSL and deal with it there. I wouldn't advertise it front facing.
Got it. So just pretty much talk about it broadly in the ad, and then when it comes down to the VSL
Would you get
or the
banned if
call,
you said,
that's
let
when I
me
just
show you
go more
how to
descriptive.
future-proof and protect your social media accounts?
Mhm.
Would you get banned?
What was that?
Would you get banned if you said, hey, here's some tips to future-proof your social media accounts? Would you get banned for that?
No.
Okay, so if I am looking for tips for that, and then you say, hey, listen, go to this training, and we'll show you how to future-proof from, make sure they don't get banned or get them back if you've lost them. They go to that training, and then on that training you pitch, would you get banned?
Depends if, like, for instance, if like a scenario, if a employee or a representative of said platform ends up seeing that VDSL and I mentioned that certain things that they could try to get on a call, but that's obviously very small chance. But sure, there's always a possibility.
There's a small chance
but,
that you get hit by a car. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, that would be that. With that, I mean, that would be the first thing I would try. Does that help?
Yeah. 100%. Thank you.
Awesome, cool. Who was after Paulo? Who was the person that had gone ahead and put down their deposit?
Fidel's also put a.
Fidel. I love Jaden's comment. Risk equals rich. That's amazing. Can we bring Fidel up?
You hear me?
He's here.
Where's he at? Oh, what's up, brother? You put down your deposit for 8-figure license?
Yes, bro. I'm joining. I have a real estate wholesaling business, and we heavily depend on paid advertising. So that's been a whole issue, kind of like getting that going. And finally, I'm like, okay, I need to monetize my brand and teach people what I'm doing, because I spent over $100,000 in mentorships for myself.
Okay.
So it's always worked. It's always given me an ROI, but I had
so
like
you
a
spent $100,000 in mentorships.
belief.
You spent $100,000 in mentorships for yourself, and you always got an ROI.
Yeah.
Funny how that works.
Yeah.
Funny how that works.
Over 3 years. Of course, I made a ton of mistakes, right? But I had a self-limited belief of like, I'm not good enough to teach and stuff, right? So I changed that and kind of see how everything plays out. So, with my business, it's kind of like always putting up capital before you get paid. The cash conversion cycle takes long, right? So I'm like, there's got to be a better way, right? So now, like, just seeing everything is like, okay, I'm just kind of ready and I want to be a blank canvas and kind of do everything from the beginning correctly. That way we can just blow it up out of the water and all that.
Fiddle, you know what you seem like to me? You seem like the type of guy that knows where his value is. And here's what I mean by that. If I offered to wire you $1 million right now, no questions asked, you take it, right? 1 million. Okay, you take it. Who wouldn't, right? But what if I said, I'll wire you $1 million, but you can't wake up tomorrow? Would you take it?
Nope.
No, you wouldn't, right? What if it was 10 million? Would you take it?
There's no amount that I would take.
Right. So no amount you would take. Because it could be $1 trillion, you still wouldn't take it, right? It's because time is infinitely more valuable than money. I offered you literally all the money in the world, but I took all your time. Time is infinitely more valuable than money. Poor people trade time for money. Rich people trade money for time. And it sounds like you value your time. And let me ask you this, when you invest in yourself, does it save you time?
Of course.
Of course, right? See, that's what I discovered. I discovered that I can buy time. I can learn from somebody who's already figured out, and I can literally say, hey, here's how many ever, 25, 50 grand, I just bought myself 10 years. I remember I invested in a speaking coach. It was $50,000. I went out, I did an event. This was several years ago. I went out, I did an event. I used what I learned. I did $1,028,000 in a day. Previous to that, the most I ever made at any event was like 200 grand. It would have probably taken me another 5 years, maybe 7, maybe never, 7 years to figure out how to do that. I handed over, and what's funny about that is my father, I love my father, but he does not think like a rich person, okay? I told him about it. I said, I spent 50 grand to spend a day with somebody. He says, you spent 50 grand to spend a day with somebody? I said, Dad, you say I spent 50 grand for a day. I say I turned 50 grand into $1,028,000. That's how a rich person thinks. And it sounds like you think like that as well. So congratulations, man. I think you just bought yourself, I know you just bought yourself a buttload of time, because that's what this is. That's what we're doing. Rich people buy time. So congratulations, man. I really look forward to seeing you. What's your offer?
So I'm in the process of creating one. So
You
I
do
have
what?
one yet, but I'm debating on two. So one of the things that we did really well for my business was we were able to drop the cost per contract or cost per deal by like 70%. So just recently, like a lot of people are like reaching out to me and they want me to teach them like what we're doing with Facebook ads.
Okay.
So that's possibly what I'm gonna like package and sell.
Yeah, no, great, great. I mean, dude, my father's father, same father, my father's father, he said, you'll never be broke if you know how to sell, because you can take all the satellites down, you can take all the electricity away, people will still need to do commerce, so there will still be a need to advertise, a need to sell. So trust me, that is never a bad business to be in. Showing people or helping people advertise and sell, never a bad business to be in, because it's something that's always needed, something that's always required. So that's an amazing business. Congratulations. I think you're going to do absolutely amazing. I look forward to seeing you on that call I mentioned. Well, if you do the triple pack, So,
Thank you, bro.
yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Awesome.
That's it done for now. That's everybody who's paid.
That's
so
everybody?
far.
Okay, awesome. All right, guys, so if there's no other questions, I just want to end by saying this. First of all, I want to thank Iman for having me come out today. This was an amazing event. I watched the whole event. I thought it was absolutely incredible. And I will tell you this. Many times in my life, I did not take my shot. Now look, maybe for you, maybe that could just be posting your first video. Maybe that is, I don't know, maybe you don't even have an Instagram account. Maybe you don't even have a YouTube account. Maybe that thing is making a big investment. Maybe that thing is doing something that you've been putting off, okay? I'll leave you with this. One thing that I always regret, and I hate to get a little bit soft on you, but when I was divorced from my wife, this was around COVID time. Have any of you here ever had someone that you got into maybe a family member, maybe a friend, and you got into some sort of argument and you didn't talk to him for a long time? Does anybody here have that happen? Or maybe you're currently going through that, yes? Yes, of course, okay. I want to leave you with advice. This has nothing to do with business. This is just some personal advice, okay? She came over from Turkey because she got into a fight with her father. Now, her father owned a luxury car rental service, so he had money. Always took care of her. She always had a chauffeur. She actually lives a cushy life. She comes over, cuts herself off, which obviously made me feel terrible because, I wasn't able to provide for my wife, and she was so used to this nice life, it made me feel even worse. But the point is that she cut herself off to go on her own and live in America, okay, and try to find her own way. She didn't talk to her father for years. Well, when COVID hit, and look, I encouraged her so many times to say, pick up the phone, pick up the phone, pick up the phone. It's not worth it. Pick up the phone. Don't miss this opportunity. Pick up the phone. Call your father. She wouldn't do it. One day, he gets COVID. And I don't know why. I can't tell you. And by the way, this is when we were divorced. I don't know why. I can't tell you why. But they would not let her speak to her father for some security reason. I don't know. Is she going to get COVID through the phone? I don't know why they did that. But wouldn't even let her speak to him. And he passed away. And she never got to talk to him again. And I remember standing at her door. I was dropping off my son. I was picking up my son because he had died. He had passed away. And I remember her sitting there in the chair. And I remember thinking, she's sitting there and she's crying. I cannot comfort her. She doesn't want me to comfort her. And all I wanted to do was comfort her. She missed the opportunity to speak to her father. I missed the opportunity to fix my marriage and be there for her. It caused me pain, it caused her pain. I will tell you, I don't care what it is. Maybe it's not your YouTube channel, your business, whatever. Maybe it's somebody that you haven't talked to. Maybe it's something that you haven't done. Heck, maybe you haven't filed your taxes. I don't know. But I promise you, the biggest suffering and pain in your life is missed opportunities. So whatever it is, I know each and every one of you has something that you're putting off, something that you're too scared to do that's uncomfortable, something. Do it. Pick up the phone, send that text, make that leap, whatever it is, do it, because I promise you, the cost of inaction is far, far, far greater than the cost of action. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much for coming. Congratulations for everybody. I would love to see you on the calls. Thank you guys so much. I'm out. Thank you so much. Thank you, Iman.